This is CBC Nova Scotia News.
Sentenced, the man who pleaded guilty in a fatal Halifax hit-and-run gets 4 years in prison.
Wind energy, an up-close look at a Nova Scotia wind farm preparing to come online by the end of next year.
And Stowaway cat, how this Italian kitten found a new home in Nova Scotia.
Increasing clouds throughout the day on Tuesday with some showers rolling in throughout the afternoon and evening and overnight. Your full forecast is coming up.
Good evening. The man who hit and killed a Dalhousie University student in a hit-and-run collision has been sentenced to 4 years in prison.
Deepak Sharma had already pleaded guilty to 3 charges following the incident in January. He apologized in court today, but as Gareth Hampshire tells us, the victim's family say they will live with the pain forever.
Deepak Sharma was driving his Honda Civic at about 126 kilometers an hour in a 50 zone when he hit 21-year-old Alexandria Wortman at a 4-way stop at Jubilee Road and Vernon Street in Halifax. The judge accepted a joint recommendation of a 4-year sentence. The courtroom was filled with family and friends of Wortman, who's originally from New Brunswick, and a number gave victim impact statements describing her as a special person who was compassionate and brought people together. Her mom, Susan Wortman, says she's found it hard to function since the tragedy. The pain is unbearable, constant, suffocating, and life-altering, she told court. And her dad, James Wortman, said his life will never be the same. I'm a shell of my former self. I don't sleep at night. I struggle to find a reason to get out of bed and sleepwalk through most days like a morose, depressed zombie, he said. When he spoke, Sharma could not explain why he was driving at such dangerous speeds and says he now realizes his behavior was senseless and is sorry for causing such pain and suffering. The Crown points out he was already fleeing from a previous collision, notes he was driving at such speed in a residential area when pedestrians and other drivers were on their way home at about 6 p.m., and did not stop after hitting Alexandria Wortman either.
He struck Alex when she was going through that marked 4-way stop and kept going with her stuck in the car until he caused a 3rd accident. As I said, it was senseless and avoidable, and if there is a takeaway from this, I think we as a community need to stop treating driving as a right and not a privilege.
Sharma had 2 previous speeding tickets from New Brunswick and 2 driving offences in Nova Scotia, including 1 for stunting. After he serves his 4-year sentence, he'll be banned from driving for 10 years. Gareth Hampshire, CBC News, Halifax.
Nova Scotia is forecasting a record deficit of $1.2 billion for the current fiscal year, the largest in the province's history. The finance minister says he remains bullish on Nova Scotia's prospects, but opposition leaders see reason for concern. Michael Gorman reports.
When Finance Minister John Lohr tabled his budget last February, the deficit was projected at $697 million. Using updated figures, that's now projected to be $1.2 billion, driven in no small part by extra department spending. But Lohr says people should not expect any immediate changes.
We are absolutely committed to meeting the needs of Nova Scotians. We're committed to affordability for Nova Scotians. We're committed to seeing our economy grow. How the blend of all of that turns out in the next budget, I can't predict right now, but that's the direction that we are going.
Each year, the PCs have tabled deficit budgets, only to see them close the books in surplus. That could be more difficult this time. Population growth, which drove those surpluses, has almost flatlined, and the province is dealing with seafood tariffs from China and uncertainty from the U.S. Opposition leaders Claudia Chender of the NDP and Liberal Derek Momberket are concerned.
We have the most spending in history, and we don't have a lot to show for it. We heard the minister use the word affordability. The reality is many Nova Scotians across this province are struggling to afford housing.
For me, they need to start looking at ways that they can actually grow the economy with a real plan, and a real plan to actually address what they have brought to Nova Scotians is generational debt that our children's children are going to be paying for.
Lohr says he sees potential to grow the economy through natural resource development, but Momberket notes any such project will be years away from generating new revenue. Michael Gorman, CBC News, Halifax.
Nova Scotia is expecting more than 300 megawatts of new onshore wind energy to come online by the end of next year from 4 wind farms. The CBC's Taryn Grant recently got an up-close look at a construction site of one of those projects.
Have you ever wondered how they put these turbines together? In the simplest terms, just attach 3 blades to a tower. But first, you have to get the blades up in the air. For this project in Hants County, a crane lifts them about 40 stories up. Each blade is about as long as the entire wingspan of some large commercial airplanes.
It's very wind dependent, especially. We can work in kind of precipitation, rain and snow is fine, but the wind, those blades are basically a gigantic sail, so we can't have the wind picking up while we're lifting.
The conditions were just right on this calm September day at the Benjamin's Mill wind project. Bradshaw says her crew is experienced. They've built other wind farms and 7 other turbines on this project. This is the final blade installation.
There's still a lot of work left to do after this in terms of mechanical and electrical completion, but yeah, this is a big one.
This project was picked by the provincial government 3 years ago to help Nova Scotia get off coal and reach its target of 80% renewable energy by 2030. A handful of other projects were selected at the same time. This will be one of the first ones completed. Halifax-based renewable energy firm Natural Forces is the developer. It was initially hoping the project would be done last year. But as with all the projects in the PC government's first onshore wind procurement, there have been delays.
Once the guinea pigs have gone through, which is what the rate-based procurement really was, I think we hit a rhythm. And once we hit the rhythm, it should be a lot easier from that point on.
Easier, but maybe not outright easy. If Nova Scotia is going to reach its clean energy goals, many more wind farms would have to come online in the next 5 years. Some are in the works, but the numbers suggest they won't be enough. The energy minister isn't ready to say what the plan is for reaching the finish line.
I believe we're well on our way, but as procurement is needed, we will look at that. So that that's something that we're always looking at.
Back at Benjamin's Mill, blades should be spinning soon, adding some wind energy to the grid by the end of the year. Taryn Grant, CBC News, Hants County.
All right, well, a little bit of a breeze where I was this weekend, but a pretty nice weekend just the same.
That's right. And today, officially fall.
Welcome to fall. Yes, we made it. Though, what an eventful summer, or non-eventful summer, if we're talking about the lack of precipitation. And as we turn the page into fall, we are, of course, hoping for some wet weather. And Mother Nature is going to be delivering over the next couple of days. That's some good news. Temperatures across the province still summer-ish for Tuesday. Certainly right around the 20-degree mark is a pretty good safe bet for most of us. We've got this next system rolling in. A quiet start to the day on Tuesday, clouds building up into the afternoon, and some showers, particularly along the northern parts of the province closest to this frontal boundary, though a chance even along the Atlantic coastline. That chance will really increase as we move into the later afternoon and early evening. But this front isn't going to offer up a whole lot in terms of precipitation. We're going to be quiet for Wednesday, and then this next system, that's going to be rolling in through Thursday evening into the overnight and Friday. This one, I'm a little more optimistic about. We'll talk about that with your full 7-day forecast coming up.
Yeah, stay tuned for that. Thanks so much, Ryan.
Thanks, Ryan.
Thank you.
Well, after a brief hiatus, a free boat cleaning service is back to help protect Nova Scotia lakes and rivers from invasive plants and animals. The program was briefly paused when woods were closed for part of the summer. The CBC's Juliana Grillo went along to see how the contamination truck works.
You may not know it, but there could be an invasive plant or animal hitching a ride on your boat. That is why the Nova Scotia Invasive Species Council is putting this boat wash service in popular locations around the province, like here at Kejimkujik National Park. Armed with a water tank, a diesel boiler, and a pressure washer inside this trailer, they call it the decontamination truck. The idea is to avoid the spread of invasives from one body of water to another.
There's 2 elements to this. We're cleaning boats and watercraft in order to stop invasive species, but we're also doing outreach and teaching people.
Donnelly says most people they talk to don't know a whole lot about invasive species, so this is a good opportunity to raise awareness. This churro man comes to the park with his family at least once a year.
My daughter has a little like a little toy, like a little kayak, I guess, and we stopped us. It's the first time I've noticed it, so it seems like a good idea.
But Donnelly says not everyone stops. Because it's not mandatory, it's up to boaters to voluntarily agree to the cleaning. He says he wishes there were laws in place to make it a requirement.
The Pacific Northwest or even the western part of the U.S., that's exactly what they do. You can't launch your boat unless it's cleaned. And if you've put your boat in a body of water that they know has invasive species, you have to clean the boat when you take it out. And maybe we'll get there eventually, but people have to learn more about the risks of invasive species and specifically the zebra mussels.
The zebra mussel is of particular concern for environmentalists. Originally from Europe, they were introduced in Canada in the late 1980s, and they have made their way to our neighbors in New Brunswick in 2023. Humans are responsible for their spread.
They can just be attached to your canoe. There could be, if there's a bilge or anything in your vessel, they can be in that. They can tag in, and you just might not even notice it.
The decontamination truck will be making rounds in the province until October. Donnelly hopes that by offering this free service, more people will get their boats cleaned of invasives. Juliana Grillo, CBC News, Kejimkujik National Park.
Lisa Banfield, the spouse of the man who perpetrated the Portapique mass shooting, is set to publish a memoir recounting the abuse she endured in their relationship. The memoir is called The First Survivor: Life with Canada's Deadliest Mass Shooter. The shooter's rampage in the spring of 2020 began when he assaulted Banfield, his common-law wife of 19 years. Over the next 13 hours, he killed 22 people. Banfield wrote the book in collaboration with her sister Maureen Banfield and journalist Sherry Aikenhead. Publisher Sutherland House says the book is both a personal account and a call to action to shift society's response to victims of intimate partner violence. It is set to be published in January.
Firefighters from across the Maritimes were on PEI this past weekend, learning more about how to deal with electric vehicle fires. Earlier this month, an EV school bus caught fire in Montreal. Some of the challenges specific to EV fires include a need for more water. The fires also tend to be under the vehicle, so they're tougher to get to. And because the technology still isn't widely used in the Maritimes, firefighters say there's still a learning curve.
The federal government has announced $750,000 in funding for the Highland Arts Theater in Cape Breton. The money will be used for making essential repairs, installing accessible washrooms, and adding new heating and lighting systems, among other upgrades. The theater is a historic building, first constructed as a Presbyterian church. Well, earlier this summer, a cargo ship carrying vehicles brought an unlikely passenger from Italy to Nova Scotia. Officials found a 10-week-old kitten during a search of the vessel.
A member of the Canadian Navy was there that day, and his family was quick to adopt the cat, now known as Grim.
This is Grim. He is about 23 weeks old now, but we found him when he was about 8 to 10 weeks old, and he's now a part of our family after my husband found him on a shipping container coming from Savona, Italy. He was on the boat for 10 days. I'm not sure when they noticed him, but he obviously got on in Italy and made the full journey across the Atlantic. He was kind of like really dirty and covered in some sort of like oil, and he was like just really dirty and cold, and he's a little bit underweight. They were feeding him pasta, which is, as far as I understand, all they had to feed him, and is quite comical, obviously, coming from Italy. So definitely needed some food, some warmth, and a good bath, which was all gotten for him within the next couple of days. So we named him Grim. He was found on the Grimaldi line of shipping containers, and he is definitely well suited with that name. He is wild. We joke often that he must have been bred with some sort of squirrel, because he is all over the place. He climbs and literally hangs off of chandeliers. He is all over the place all the time. I am a sucker for a good story, and I just thought that it just all kind of fell into our lap. I've always really believed in fate and just the stars aligning in the right way, and it just seemed like he was just really made for us to find him that day.
Too cute. Well, there is the old grist mill, and Ryan is up next.
This weather update is brought to you by Access Wellness Nova Scotia. Book your appointment today for free, confidential mental wellness support.
Well, fall has arrived. We knew it would, of course.
Yep.
But boy, this weekend certainly felt a little summer-like in some places, for sure.
Yes, it was beautiful. But, the end of summer does not mean the end of hurricane season. We're still keeping an eye on that.
Hurricane season rolls on, and Gabrielle was the storm we talked about at length last week, and I thought we would just update, even though it will not be a threat to land, at least not until it becomes post-tropical and it rolls into the UK. So here's the tropical satellite, and you can see that storm now has a defined eye. And in fact, the latest update from the National Hurricane Center as of just a few minutes ago, that is now a Category 4 storm. So very intense storm just east of Bermuda, thankfully far enough east that not impacting them directly. You can see almost tracking straight east, and out it will go and to visit our friends in the UK as a post-tropical system this weekend with some rain and wind. Not done yet, though. So the National Hurricane Center watching two areas of development. The one in orange there, 50% chance of development over the next 7 days. The one in red, 80% chance of development. That's the one the models are really kind of blowing up into a system. So we'll keep you posted on both of those over the next couple of days. Beautiful shot. Grand Prix this evening. Fantastic evening here across Nova Scotia as we do welcome in fall. And let's hope that there is a bit of a pattern change here with some wetter weather. Temperatures into the teens across the province right now. The winds have been generally light today, and they will continue to be generally light tonight. As we look at the satellite and radar picture, there is our incoming front, which is going to be bringing in some showers, but as I said, not nearly enough. We'll be watching for some development along this frontal boundary to usher in that next system that does thankfully have some more positive signs with it. Temperatures across the country right now, you can see into the high teens, low 20s for the most part. Winnipeg, our warmest spot right now, 26 on the map anyway. Iqaluit just at 8 degrees, St. John's at 16. And for tonight, temperatures are going to be right around the 7 to 10 degree range in terms of this time of year. This is about seasonal, but certainly milder than it has been over the last couple of mornings with some frost in some parts of the province, especially Sunday morning. Now, as we look at the outlook for tomorrow, we'll see increasing clouds throughout the morning, but a pretty bright start overall, some fog patches. Into the afternoon, the best chance of showers is going to be Cape Breton, the North Shore, into the Colchester-Cumberland area, Cobequid Bay, and the valley. Can't rule out showers further south than that, but the greatest risk for the south and along the Atlantic coastline will be Tuesday evening after supper time. So just a heads up on that. 17 to 19 degrees for most of Cape Breton. Looks like with Victoria County could see some spots. Best chance of cracking 20 tomorrow. Low 20s for most of the eastern mainland into central areas as well, right around 19 to 20 degrees in most cases, a couple of degrees, maybe a little bit warmer. Onshore winds for the Cobequid Bay area, including Parsboro and Economy. And we are looking at temperatures on Tuesday, high teens, low 20s in the west. Okay, so that front moves off to the south. We'll see that northerly wind in place for Wednesday. So a bit of a coolish start to the day, and then the winds will lighten up. High pressure in place, temperatures bumping up into the high teens, low 20s in most cases. That northerly wind perhaps keeping things a little bit cooler for Inverness and the North Shore. 19, 20 degrees though for areas down towards the south. Okay, so here's that next system. And this one we'll drill into with more detail over the next 24 hours or so. But you can see this pulse of moisture coming up here. This is what has me a little bit optimistic here that northern parts of the province especially may get a pretty good shot from this. Right now we'll hedge it by saying at least 10 millimeters or more. I know that's not nearly enough, but it could be quite a bit more than that. But we'll wait till the models kind of come in line. Still some disagreements, but we're hopeful on that. That'll linger into Friday with some showers, but again, that looks like the most substantial shot will be Thursday night and early Friday morning. Lingering showers Friday and then finally clearing out Saturday. And Sunday's looking like a pretty nice day this weekend. Tom and Amy.
We need the rain for sure. Okay. Thanks so much, Ryan.
Thank you, Ryan. Speaking of no rain, the dry summer has been tough for the PEI hay crop. It hasn't grown because of that shortage of rain.
So now farmers may have to bring it in from other places to feed their animals, and that can get expensive. Connor Lamont reports.
So right now, this field of grass should be pretty well knee-high again.
It's been 45 days since Alan Larson last cut hay in this field, and it's barely grown. He says the hot, dry weather has made the grasses he uses to feed cattle look like this. That grass makes hay when it's dried and feeds his animals. His field looked like this in the spring. It's been months since it was that healthy.
It's been pretty sad in regards to second cut and third cut. They've been minimal to absolutely nothing at all in some places. I think we got lucky with a pretty heavy first cut. It was cool, damp spring, and the grass grew well, but after the first cut came off, nothing grew again.
Larson says if he cut now, he'd get less than a bale per acre. He normally gets about 3 to 5. Not enough hay means you can't feed all your cattle, and you need to buy it from somewhere else, and that's expensive. Larson says he'll be okay. Luckily, his first cut was really good, but not everyone can say the same.
I've already heard of people having to sell some calves early and get their cows in, and they're already starting to dip into their winter feed reserves, and it's usually you should be able to keep your cows pastured on grass and not have to worry about getting into your winter feed supply until October, November sometimes.
Larson says the dry spells have been longer in recent years. Another summer like this one could be trouble. Others say they've rarely seen it this bad.
The biggest risk for us as dairy producers would be going forward would be next year, is the reserves will be mostly eaten up, and so we'll need to rebuild some of those reserves next year, and so that's what we'll be looking forward to now.
Macbeth says most farmers have barely gotten anything off their third cut. His crop is down almost 30% too.
It's been a disappointing growth year. As far as growing crops, it's been tough enough.
Macbeth says it's not a crisis yet, but he hopes the corn harvest is good. That could determine if there will be a feed shortage. Connor Lamont, CBC News, Cape Travers.
Coming up, long wait times. Almost 10% of people who have visited a Nova Scotia ER last year left without being seen. A recent report by the Montreal Economic Institute says more than 54,000 visits to a Nova Scotia emergency room ended with those people leaving without receiving treatment last year. That's almost 10% of all visits. Samantha Daggers is with the Montreal Economic Institute. So how seriously sick are some of these patients that you're talking about leaving the ER?
Yeah, so great question. In Nova Scotia, what we're seeing is that almost half of the people leaving the ER without treatment are classified as P3. So these are people who are in need of urgent care. And the rest, about 43%, are folks who are in the non-urgent care part. So people who, have a controlled bleeding and need stitching cleaned up or a prescription renewal. So they kind of get pushed back. But I would say half are people who are in need of urgent care. So
the emergency room is where they should be, or should they be accessing the healthcare system in another way?
No, absolutely. That, of course, emergency care is kind of the last resort for many people. And this is because Nova Scotians actually have, not great access to primary care. So basically, the people who get, in the front of the line are, folks with like life-threatening injuries, say. And because they're so bottlenecked, what we're seeing is that people who are, maybe not super urgent are having to wait hours in the ER.
And so what can you say about the trend then? I mean, what's happening in Nova Scotia, how it compares to what's happening in other parts of the country?
Yeah, so what in Nova Scotia, the proportion of people leaving the emergency room without treatment is actually higher than the national average, which is about 7.8%. But the trends in Nova Scotia are really surging. So this is a 54% increase since 2015. So the problem is really accelerating. And so we propose a couple of solutions, especially in the case of Nova Scotia, where people need urgent care. We suggest establishing what are called immediate care centers. So these are things that we see in France. They were dealing with kind of the same problem with, ERs being strained, a lot of bottlenecking. And what they saw was a need to actually have these centers that would deal with non-life-threatening urgencies. And so, they're not a thing yet in Nova Scotia, but we think that considering the numbers and considering how urgent the care need is in Nova Scotia, we suggest that they should establish this.
I mean, the province does point out, having seen the numbers, that they are making inroads, they are making improvements, they're getting the wait list for family doctors down, working hard to improve triaging and staffing levels in hospitals. I mean, what do you think they should do on that side of things, on the staffing side of things?
Well, it's really about ensuring that we're kind of unleashing the expertise of all of our healthcare professionals. So of course we need, to increase the number of doctors in hospitals. But doctors, they take a decade to train. So that's why we also just suggest, really scaling nurse practitioner clinics, which I know are already a thing in Nova Scotia, to make sure that, they are kind of the entryway to people without a family doctor in terms of accessing primary care. This is why we also want to see the scaling of pharmacist-led clinics, because nobody should be going to the emergency room just for a prescription renewal. And we actually saw that 10% of all ER visits in Canada are for a prescription renewal. So again, it's just really, tying the needs to the professional. And again, because, we saw that Nova Scotia has a lot of people who are in urgent needs waiting a long time in emergency rooms, we need to also see the establishment of immediate care centers.
Okay, and as you mentioned the pharmacies there, they are making changes in what pharmacists can and can't do in this province, have been for some time, I suppose making some inroads there. I do wonder, though, about, these patients that you talk about that go to the ER and then leave. What do you know about what typically happens to a patient that leaves an ER without getting care?
Yeah, so there was a really good study that came out of the US that followed these trends as well. And they found that more than half of folks who left an emergency room without treatment will go back and seek care within 3 weeks for the same ailment. So that means that people aren't leaving and magically feeling better. They're going back and often with worsening conditions, more complex conditions, which will, bump them up in terms of urgency, but that really just expands the number of people.
When you look at the data, you're seeing the trend lines. Are you seeing any suggestion or any hope that the direction might change more?
It's not clear, especially, in Nova Scotia's case with, the it getting worse by 54% in 5 years. But we're hoping that, all these nurse practitioner clinics, the pharmacy-led clinics, the we just need them to scale, and I don't think we're seeing maybe the full result of that in the long term. But so long uh, as long as we're being more nimble in our healthcare system, and this is probably the main takeaway, is that government bureaucracies aren't very well suited to dealing with healthcare crises. It's really the professionals on the ground. They're very well adapted. They know the needs of their communities. So instead of this top-down system that we've had in Canada for some time, really community-based healthcare is what we need. And we're seeing in Nova Scotia, which is a positive thing for sure.
All right, we'll leave it on that note. Samantha Douglas of the Montreal Economic Institute, thank you.
Thank you.
Coming up, recognizing Palestinian statehood. A UN conference aims to mobilize support for a two-state solution.
And tapping into the military market. As countries ramp up defense spending, Canadian jet maker Bombardier wants to expand its reach. Welcome back. Countries are lining up to formally recognize a Palestinian state at the United Nations. France, Belgium, and Malta are the latest to join the list, following Canada, Britain, Australia, and Portugal Sunday.
And they're doing it despite clear opposition from the U.S. and Israel. The CBC's Karina Roman reports from Washington.
I declare that today France recognizes the state of Palestine.
France joins a growing list of countries moving to recognize a Palestinian state. This comes as President Emmanuel Macron and Saudi Arabia host a two-state solution summit at the United Nations, a summit that both the U.S. and Israel are boycotting. But Canadian Prime Minister Mark Carney says the move to recognize statehood is about keeping alive hopes for a two-state solution, especially as Israel pushes forward with settlements in the West Bank and threatening annexation in contravention of international law.
We have to push on this now because, as I say, the possibility in absolute violation of the UN Charter and in absolute violation of international law of self-determination for the Palestinian peoples is being erased.
The summit also comes on the heels of a UN report last week that found Israel had committed genocide in Gaza. Israel's ambassador to the UN says after October 7th, a two-state solution is off the table and that recognizing a Palestinian state rewards Hamas.
With all due respect to President Macron, the Elysee cannot give instructions to Hamas, so it's easier to come here, make statements, take pictures. They feel they are doing something, but they are not promoting peace. On the contrary, they are supporting terrorism.
The White House reiterated today that the president agrees with Israel.
He feels this does not do anything to release the hostages, which is the primary goal right now in Gaza, does nothing to end this conflict and bring this war to a close. And frankly, he believes it's a reward to Hamas.
Canada's conditions for statehood include the disarmament of Hamas and agreement from the Palestinian Authority to reform and hold general elections in 2026.
So it is a process that is growing. And all of those people are saying, since the end game is a two-state solution, why don't we invest in peace?
For now, the recognition of statehood is symbolic. Even Palestinians are skeptical of it leading to any real change on the ground, especially with the U.S. not on board. Karina Roman, CBC News, Washington.
Israel is strongly criticizing the decision by Canada and other countries to recognize a Palestinian state. Sasha Petrovic has the latest from Jerusalem.
There certainly seems to be a feeling of frustration here in Israel and a tone of anger, especially from Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, as he watches a growing list of countries recognize a Palestinian state, something that he has been discouraging for some time and now rules out entirely as ever happening here. Further, he is saying that Israeli settlements, which are in the West Bank, the occupied West Bank, and have been growing on a steady basis over the past months and years, are going to keep growing and will expand. The U.S. and Israel are two of the countries that won't be at the conference today, and they, in fact, are working together. The U.S. provides a great deal of money and weaponry to Israel, but beyond that, it is really the only country that has the political and diplomatic clout to stop or slow down things that Israel has been doing, both in Gaza and in the occupied West Bank. And U.S. President Donald Trump is not doing that. Now, there is supposed to be a meeting between Netanyahu and Trump in the United States during this UN session when Netanyahu goes there, and that may well determine whether Israel goes ahead with plans or ideas to annex more parts of the occupied West Bank, perhaps all of it, or whether the U.S. will offer some sort of caution against it. Netanyahu has said that he will make a final decision as to where Israel is going and what kind of policies it will support as a result of this backing from the international community for a Palestinian state when he comes back from the United States later this week. Sasha Petrovic, CBC News, Jerusalem.
Quebec manufacturing giant Bombardier is looking to grow its defense business as Canada and many other countries vow to boost their military spending. But as the CBC's Philippe de Montigny reports, experts warn the company may lack the expertise and production capacity.
Bombardier got out of trains and commercial planes 5 years ago to focus on private jets. But now it sees potential in defense.
Especially right now, the momentum is very high. You know, every country is increasing its spending, and we're going to be capitalizing on this over the next few years.
The Quebec company is already retooling some of its business planes for surveillance and other military uses and selling them to other countries.
So the Pentagon's a customer. You know, we have the Swedish, our customer. The French will now be a customer. So we have a lot of success internationally.
Will Canada be a customer?
I'm sure it's coming.
Bombardier is currently working with an Italian firm to develop maritime patrol aircrafts. It hopes these planes can replace the ones Ottawa recently purchased from Boeing, an American manufacturer.
The plane exists, okay.
But experts warn the company may lack the expertise and production capacity, including this former aerospace engineering officer with the Canadian Armed Forces.
We remember the C-series of Bombardier. This was very expensive. There were delays and so on. It's the same thing with Boeing and Airbus. Every time they develop a new plane, it's risky.
Not only that, the market for military planes is also relatively limited, and Bombardier is facing steep competition from well-established players.
They may have the technical expertise, but until you start selling and you have a critical mass of airplanes that you're producing annually to maintain and enhance that experience, it's going to be a rough ride. And then we got drones. That could be, and probably already are, a formidable competitor.
And we as a country, we can work together.
Bombardier's CEO, who helped rebuild the company and reduce its crippling debt, isn't afraid of the challenge.
We would be very proud of helping secure our country, but at the same time, it gives the opportunity to create jobs in the country and export these solutions.
Philippe de Montigny, CBC News, Toronto.
Without offering robust medical evidence to back it up, the Trump administration is creating a link between autism and Tylenol. Jennifer Yoon finds out what experts have to say about this move by the U.S. government.
U.S. President Donald Trump tying autism to pregnant women taking a common painkiller.
So taking Tylenol is not good. All right, I'll say it. It's not good. For this reason, they are strongly recommending that women limit Tylenol use during pregnancy unless medically necessary. So ideally, you don't take it at all, but if you can't tough it out, if there's a problem, you're going to end up doing it.
But scientists say it's really hard to pinpoint one cause for autism. How do you rule out other factors that are in play, like genetics? The strongest study that we have on this looked at 2.5 million kids in Sweden. It was just published last year in JAMA, and it tried to control for those other factors by including siblings who share similar genetic backgrounds.
There is no strong evidence to support that acetaminophen during pregnancy causes autism or ADHD or any other neurodevelopmental disorder.
Here in Canada, the Society of OBGYN says Tylenol is still considered generally safe in recommended doses for pregnant people, especially because it's one of the only painkillers that are considered safe generally for those who are expecting, and not treating pain or fevers can be harmful for the baby and the mother.
Pregnant women shouldn't feel guilty about using the medication. They shouldn't feel guilty if they did use the medication, in this pregnancy or a past pregnancy. So I think that you should always have a discussion with your healthcare provider if you're going to use a medication in pregnancy.
Dr. Smith is urging those who are expecting to talk to their doctors. Jennifer Yoon, CBC News, Toronto.
Late night talk show host Jimmy Kimmel will be returning to the airwaves Tuesday night. The Walt Disney Company says that it decided to suspend Kimmel's show because of comments in a monologue last week that were, quote, ill-timed and thus insensitive. Those remarks were related to Charlie Kirk's killing. The company now says it will return Kimmel to air after, quote, thoughtful conversations with him. Kimmel's suspension had prompted concerns about free speech.
It's an environmental problem that's been around for a long time, plastics polluting the world's oceans. Now, an environmental solution that's been around for a long time is going to be tried out, recycling. The CBC's Yasmin Renea explains.
This used to be a fishing net.
Millions of these pellets are giving new life to plastic fishing gear choking oceans and coastlines.
Right now, plastic pollution is one of the biggest challenges facing our time.
Worldwide, about 640,000 tons of abandoned, lost, or discarded fishing gear are left in oceans annually, a leading cause of marine animal deaths. Whales and dolphins can become entangled in the waste, and it can also be mistaken for food.
And we really need to just be conserving the biodiversity we have in Canada as well as internationally. So we really need to be better managing these materials.
It's why BC-based Ocean Legacy opened Canada's first marine plastic recycling facility. Here, fishing ropes, nets, and other materials are melted, diced into tiny pellets, then molded into new products.
And these can be used for just about anything from signage and construction to different paneling.
Even patio furniture. Ocean Legacy has relied on money from federal and provincial ocean cleanup projects, but that funding stopped this year. Now the organization is bringing in less than 50% of what it needs to sustain operations.
It's impacted Ocean Legacy, but also the entire community that's involved in ocean cleanup.
And even at full capacity, some say recycling is only just scratching the surface.
The reality is, if we don't stop plastic production, if we don't stop wasting so much plastic and generating so much plastic waste, it's just going to always be cleaning up a mess that we're constantly making.
Every piece of plastic that's ever been produced since the 50s exists in some capacity on this planet.
While Ocean Legacy plans to expand operations across the country, its ultimate goal is to not exist. Yasmin Ghaneya, CBC News, Richmond, British Columbia.
The Toronto Blue Jays are heading to the playoffs. They clinched the spot with yesterday's win against the Kansas City Royals.
The 1-0. Ground ball to second. And the Blue Jays are going to the postseason.
The Jays beat the Royals 8-5. The win makes them the first American League team to lock up their spot in the playoffs. The Jays are entering the postseason with the league's best record, but they're just 2 games ahead of the New York Yankees to lead the AL East. Quite the turnaround from last year's finish in the AL East basement, and certainly a reason to celebrate.
Big moves in tech helped propel markets on both sides of the border a little higher today. Here's a look at where things closed as we head to commercial break.
This weather update is brought to you by Access Wellness Nova Scotia. Book your appointment today for free, confidential mental wellness support.
Yes, it was another nice weekend in Nova Scotia. Great for picture taking.
Yes, exactly. And the theme is starting to change, right? We're getting the pumpkin spice, the sweater weather, all that stereotypical stuff.
Yeah, and the inbox was plumb full. Absolutely plumb full. So folks were in the photo-taking mood this weekend. So tough to pick just one, but one kind of hit the theme of the day, no question, as we zoom in on beautiful spot here, Richmond, and yes, Wayne.
Canadian red, there we go.
Yeah, Wayne definitely noticing in his neck of the woods how much the leaves are already changing, and you could see it this weekend. I was traveling around a little bit. You can definitely see the colors changing.
You sure can, yeah.
Feels like it's going to be a bit early this year, earlier than normal. Now, as we look at the forecast for Tuesday, temperatures right around 20 degrees, maybe a bit of a temperature drop into the afternoon for places like Richmond and Malagash and those northern areas of the province, as we will see the clouds building in there and a few showers. Wednesday's clear out day, a bit sluggish to start, but we're looking at a mix of sun and cloud into the afternoon, and then we're going to be watching that next system that is hopefully going to bring us a substantial shot here for some. You can see that that front moves through, pretty quiet for Wednesday, and then here comes that next system moving in from the southwest, gathering moisture from the south, and that's what has us hopeful for especially Thursday night in through Friday. Showers lingering Friday, and then tapering off throughout the day on Saturday with a pretty nice Sunday shaping up, Tom Namey.
Does
Fingers
look pretty
crossed.
good. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Well, weather was nice for this as well.
Yep.
Approximately 10,000 people came out to the Confederation Bridge on Sunday for the 45th annual Terry Fox Run.
Runners and walkers took to the 13-kilometer bridge linking New Brunswick and PEI, with options to start on either side.
The annual event aims to raise funds for cancer research. Have a look.
We are at the Cape Germain Nature Center, where everybody's going to be starting on the New Brunswick side for the Confederation Bridge Terry Fox Run. It's going to be an amazing day. 10,000 people have registered. I think we just crossed the $800,000 mark, so we're hoping that maybe we can get to $1 million for raising money for cancer research in this event. It's amazing to see so many people here, and it's a huge event. All the logistics of getting people back and forth across the bridge and buses and shuttles and all the organization to shut this bridge down for 7 hours is an incredible feat. We've all been touched by cancer, and Terry said that in 1980. We all know somebody, a family member, a friend, a neighbor down the street, and that's what brings these people here. Not only inspired by what Terry did in 1980, but they're here to, help continue what Terry started and remember somebody that they know that's been touched by cancer.
Such a great event.
Sure is.
Great setting for it, too.
Yeah.
That's it for us tonight. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next time.
Good night.
Good night.